Oh, I got you now, you bastard.
We are all bastards, my friend. But only one of us is some would-be emperor's whore.
We know who you are.
And nobody knows who you are. Not even your goddamn father.
You maggots are going to die.
When a villain is written so well, they can become the face of an entire series. Sometimes accidentally. Sometimes villains are written so well you can't help but at least sympathize with them. Understand the logic, the reason behind what they're doing, what motivates them and compels them to take the actions that they do. Maybe they aren't bad people after all. Perhaps it's because they are the antagonists to our hero's story. Nothing more than an obstacle and irritation for the person we play as. Their morals and values may actually be just and simply based off the perspective we're given. They're the bad guys, and us the heroes of our own story that won't allow them the slightest chance of being seen as remotely good. Other times it's not that complicated. We just hate them for what they have done and are willing to do. Nothing redeemable about them. We ache to see the day they get what's coming to them. The story of Red Dead Redemption 2 is a mixture of the two. We learn to hate people like Milton, Ross, and Cornwall. We can't mistake them for being entirely good. Undoubtedly, Cornwall has his hands in less than savory business dealings. A ruthless businessman to his core. He may not be a villain, at least not in our story, but he wasn't a good man either. Ross was a man that upheld the law, but he was one that refused to believe in reformation, turning around and betraying John, resulting in him taking away 4 lives and not just Marston's. Milton is also somewhat of a fair lawman, but he did order an entire legion of Pinkertons to open fire on a dilapidated shack that he was aware housed women and at least 1 child. Well, we can sit and talk about the many different characters and faces in this game. Today I wanted to address one specifically, one that may be so well known, he may be the inadvertent face of the Red Dead Redemption series. That person of course being none other than Dutch van der Linde. Dutch in the first Red Dead Redemption game was an outlaw we really knew nothing about. For the most part, we knew he was charismatic, he was the leader of the gang John Marston rode with in his formative years, and we know he was responsible for teaching John how to read and write, telling us as players this man has, or at least had, a soft spot at some point in time. Maybe he did go crazy, or maybe he was always a manipulator. The rumors of him being a cold-blooded outlaw, then seeing his interactions with John for the first time, practically solidifying the 2 main points. Dutch is charismatic, he seems to be pretty charming, and he's a maniac that lost his damn mind.
Now let her go. It's over. You want the girl, John? You always were the romantic sort. You know, gentlemen, this man here, oh, he married a whore. Used to ride with us. We all had her. Oh, but he married her. And you know that makes him a better man than us. He's a better man. Have the girl, John.
Easy, Dutch.
She's a parting gift from me.
That is how he is essentially seen throughout the first game. It's not until the second game, when he's younger, and we get a glimpse of how he was as a leader, at a time in his life when he wasn't seen as quote-unquote crazy. There's a lot to be desired about certain parts of his upbringing and what his entire criminal rap sheet looks like, but we do see a lot more of him, enough to be teased and left to wonder if he was always a bad guy, and his mask of working towards a just and righteous philosophy he could rally people around was slowly slipping as the game progressed. And then we have the other hand, where we are equally left to wonder if it was the opposite, and we just saw a good guy go so far off the rails his paranoia, personal frustration, and ambition lets him caring for only himself, all too willing to turn on those he raised, those he would refer to as his sons, his family.
Be well. I had fun with you today. I was gonna say you're like a son to me, but you're more than that.
With this video, I'm not trying to go into what would the next Red Dead Redemption game look like. I'm not trying to speculate on what the next installment would even entail, how it will come to fruition, or what the story in that game's characters will be. What I want to do is ask you a simple question, and that is, do you think Dutch has become such a massive entity tied to these games that he would have to have some kind of presence in the next game? Has he become such a complicated personality that any future outlaw, gunslinger, or lawman that turns out to be the antagonist or some latent issue for us in the next installment just completely pales by comparison, and we can't help but yearn for the return of Dutch, or even a small inkling of what kind of noise he's making during the next game's events. This is of course assuming if it takes place while Dutch is still alive and the Vanderlyn gang is slowly making a name for themselves. But I'll give you an example of what I mean here, of a series that has accidentally created a villain so weirdly loved and hated that he has made some kind of appearance in, I believe, every single entry into the series after his death in the game he was first introduced in, including a couple spin-off games that I'm not even entirely sure are considered canon to the story of everything. But the villain I'm talking about is Handsome Jack from Borderlands 2. This guy, on paper, is fucking crazy. Handsome Jack has allowed human experimentation. He has killed countless of people. He's killed innocent people out of his own paranoia in a desperate attempt to keep his own power. He enslaved his daughter and forced her to use her powers to achieve his own ambitions. Yet, in a weird twist of fate, even though he enslaved his own daughter, he still loved her to death. And even though Handsome Jack was doing all these countless atrocities, he still believed he was the hero. Jack was so well liked and so well hated at the same time. In the next Borderlands game, in the pre-sequel, it's all about his rise to power. They even included a character where you can play as Jack's doppelganger, so you get to deal with even more of Jack's personality and his own twisted backstory. In Borderlands 3, there's recordings that are tied to Jack's backstory, and he's not even in the game. And the first DLC of that game is completely devoted to just Handsome Jack. And if you never played any of the Borderlands games, it's worth noting, these games are not really known for their story. That's more going on in the background. That is just a means to the end. The main end, or the main purpose of the games, are the gameplay. The Borderlands games are looter shooters, and the main lore of Borderlands specifically, as a looter shooter, are the countless variations on the weapons that you can find. But even then, Jack was written so well that every villain you come across just pales in comparison. He set the bar so damn high that even if you are faced with a good villain that is well written, you can't help but compare to the person that's left such a massive impact on the game's universe. And I think Dutch toes that line very well. He's still likable in both games. Even in this first interaction between Dutch and John in the first game, there's that tension. You can already tell John has the fullest intentions of at least bringing Dutch in, which he's already aware that he's probably going to have to kill him. Dutch, on the other hand, just decides to toy with him. He says hello to John, asks how Jack is and Abigail, then he flips the script by calling John an errand boy. That has always been a ladies' man, a true gentleman, as he married Abigail. Someone who, well, let's just say, didn't exactly have a reputation for staying faithful.
Oh, he married a whore.
Rockstar's proven to be extremely talented in character development, and while the GTA games aren't as narratively fleshed out compared to the Red Dead Redemption games, at least comparing Grand Theft Auto 4 and 5 to Red Dead Redemption 2, to be fair, we can also blame that on the span of time with Red Dead Redemption 2 having more resources and of course the technological leap behind its development, on top of just how advanced and ambitious games happen to be over the course of time. So who knows, technically, Grand Theft Auto 6 could be much more narratively driven than even Red Dead Redemption 2. But as the two series stand, with multiple entries in Grand Theft Auto, and different stories, different protagonists, different personalities, people have latched on to different people. Some people prefer CJ, others prefer Franklin, or Trevor, or Michael, or even Tommy, and a huge chunk prefer Nico. It's possible for them to not fall into this pitfall of accidentally tying the series strictly to just Dutch, or making Dutch such an interesting character with his own outlaw philosophy on stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, swearing off revenge or killing innocent people, all while doing just that, and portraying it as something that is absolutely necessary for the gang, everybody else's well-being. As it stands right now, it looks as if a good chunk of people kind of see these games as nothing more than just an account of Dutch's life, albeit through the eyes of another and not his own, which I think a lot of people would agree is not really the point of these games. Dutch is a great character, with just enough known about him to let the mind wonder, giving credence to him being a genuine person and lending more interest behind his actions and the genuine reasons behind why he does them. I love Dutch. He's a very complicated character that is hard to see not returning, but at the same time, it's a character that doesn't really define the series. And it's with that being said, I want to pass this off to you. What do you think about Dutch? What do you think about his position in the series as a whole? From the two games we have now to any other future installments into the Red Dead Redemption series. Do Do you think that he's such a well-written character that he's practically expected, and that it would really be that difficult for Rockstar to come up with someone to challenge or rival the level of interest that so many people have taken in him since his first debut in the original game? Let's talk down in the comment section below. But like always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.